Rise Above Wellness is a trainer's gym in the way that it puts you in the position as a trainer to start your own business, to create your own identity, and to work with people that you enjoy working with in a place that's going to provide both safety and resource.
Welcome to the Elevated Wellness Network. This is Patrick, and we are here to highlight local fitness and the vibrant community that we have around us. We are so excited to get this started so that we can share the inspiring stories and big achievements of our industry professionals. What better way to start than to have our very own Eric Marin on camera today. Eric, you have been a bodybuilder going on 5 years. The natural physique, all natural. You have been a trainer for going on 10 years. You own the Rise Above Wellness Center, and now you're co-hosting a podcast with me. What else is there for you to do?
I don't know, Mr. Patrick. Maybe I'll join a strongman next year and you can coach me up on that.
I actually know a few people I can get a hold of that can actually help you with that.
I'll start bulking up, sir.
I'd actually like to see that. Let's start with the basics. How did you get into the fitness industry? Were you always an athlete, or were you more of someone that got into it later in life, similar to myself?
So for me personally, it was always going to be coaching, which is why I initially pursued a route in kinesiology. My original idea was to go into coaching, learn it, get my bachelor's degree, and go coach in high school, become successful even up to the collegiate level if I can earn my way up there. However, life circumstances altered my path. I had to pivot and make quick decisions. I decided and I learned that the college route was not going to be for me, but it didn't have to hold me back from pursuing a passion and helping others. I chose the next best thing to coaching, which was training others. And because I didn't come from a collegiate background, I didn't have too much knowledge or experience with, the terminology or how to apply into maybe like in the physical therapy realm or working with people who have injuries. I decided to start with only what I know, which is in this case, at that point in my early 20s, I'm working out for myself, hitting the gym 5 times a week, learning about what are even macros, and of course, trying everything and anything that I could get my hands on. I think this is a period where YouTube started becoming a thing, and your best teacher could be watching YouTube videos from the guys that are already doing what you want to do. That for me was the foundation as far as actually learning what I'm doing inside the gym.
I know that there's a lot of things I learned very later in life that I wish I'd known earlier, and I may have learned that through athletics. I got into it later in life. I didn't start working out till I was 18, and I didn't become a trainer till I was in the police academy. So it was more of a way to work my way through what I was doing at the time, and then it just evolved into what it is today. Is there any advice you would have given to your younger self?
So one of the pitfalls that I came across early in my bodybuilding journey was that I would constantly find myself in comparison to guys that were already where I wanted to be. Understanding that beyond the certifications, you still have to be a student of the art. So learning it and applying it into both yourself and into your people requires a large amount of study. This means you're watching the tutorials, you're looking up terminology, you're dissecting reasons why certain injuries even happen in certain individuals, in sports, or in daily life. You literally have to become a student in every aspect, from everything from fitness to nutrition to even how to recover.
I always found that it was easier to get that certificate than it ever was to truthfully make it mean something. And I think that's where a lot of trainers get lost at, is that they think the certificate's an end-all be-all. Same way with bodybuilding, you've seen that where kids get up on stage and they think that's the end-all be-all, not realizing that that's just stage one. Being that you are a natural competitor, were you taking any supplements in the early years, or are you taking anything now?
So now from a natural competition standpoint, for anybody that's considering, especially when you're approaching it naturally, you have to consider that a lot of the norm, which is usually a 12 to 16 week prep or cut, is what's expected of you. But if you're doing this naturally, it's actually going to require a lot more. You see, when they say that they start a 12-week cut or a 12-week prep, it usually means that they're going to get there pretty quick. And oftentimes it's not done naturally, which is why I say that if you're going to approach bodybuilding in a natural route, you're going to have to be in it for the long haul. This is not a 12-week program, but really it's training over maybe 9 to 10 months out of the year for that one show that you're going to plan for. So in this case, from a natural standpoint, before you get into supplementation, you're gonna have to consider and dissect every aspect of your diet. That goes for what you eat, when you eat it, how much you eat it, what you're choosing to put in your palate, and what you're gonna keep away. Also, what you're feeding your mind in terms of what are you learning, what principles are you adopting, what sort of strategies are you going to incorporate along the way. Those are the sort of strategies that as a natural bodybuilder or competitor, you're really going to have to get clear on. There is no maybe tomorrow, or maybe I'll try this today or this tomorrow. Set your plan, make sure that you stick to it and carry it out, and then trust that over the next 7 to 8 months, you're going to make steady progress, even though sometimes it might not feel like it, especially coming from a natural route, which means you're not recovering as quick, maybe not pushing as much weight as the other guy next to you. In this case, staying in your lane, seeing that plan all the way to the finish, and then carrying out that plan. And this goes for, once again, your nutrition is going to be your base. Having a foundation with your workout, that's going to be a second layer. Understanding that there's got to be a balance between the work and the rest. And then supplementation comes in after that. Other than the supplements that you get, or the vitamins and minerals that you're getting from your foods, I would really say a vitamin D, a fish oil, some sort of minerals that you might not be getting from completely from your diet. My issue with protein or protein powders is that they're synthetically produced, which means that they've been modified. That means that you're not going to get necessarily what's being presented. Even though it says one serving gets you about 30 grams of protein, in terms of absorbability for the body, it doesn't equate to that. My recommendation is to stay away completely if you can avoid it. If you've been pushing yourself extra in the gym and you could use a few extra calories that you're not getting from your diet, this is where you can bring in some synthetic source of protein that can accommodate your training. So the timing of the synthetic protein would also be a factor here, in the sense that you want to use it in a time that your body would otherwise be in a deficit or a catabolic state. So to prevent your body from reaching catabolism, this is where we can bring in something that'll spike your insulin, like protein powders. And to add to that, we don't have the synthetic protein powder by itself with water, because studies show that the rate of absorbability will increase by adding another component. In this case, from my own experience, I'll add a banana or an apple and have that with my shake, which would enhance the absorption rate. And if the goal is to sustain and maintain a caloric maintenance, then you want to make sure that you're eating the foods and able to use the most of them rather than waste them.
It used to be that the anabolic window was a thing, the idea of the 30 minutes. Now more studies show that window is more about an hour to 2 hours. But I do agree with you with the you need to consume your protein with another food source. Mine to go to is oatmeal, which is raw oatmeal that I'll mix in my shake, as well as I'll use like Fairlife milk. For some, it sits heavier on my stomach. It seems to absorb really well. Plus, with milk, the protein and the milk I use is low fat, so that it's fast digesting. The protein I use is Pure Line Nutrition. So I trust them for what they do apply to us. Working with them as long as I have, I've never had any issues with them sitting on my stomach wrong or making me feel stuffy. And I also feel like oatmeal is fast digesting, therefore it allows me to digest that protein a little bit easier, and I always feel like it gives me a little bit better of a pump after a workout. Creatine, I know, has had a really bad reputation amongst female clients and mine, but I know that some male clients also worry about this. What I do know is that creatine is one of the most researched supplements. It sends the water to the proper reservoirs, in this case, the muscle cells, which then turn around and help us with hypertrophy.
When you take a supplement consistently long enough to see some of the benefits of it, you'll get to understand that there's a difference between when you're on it and when you're off. My hypertrophy, it actually ranges a little higher. If I'm doing the lift, where I typically would start gassing out at 7 to 8 reps, that same weight now with under the usage of creatine consistently, now those numbers go from maybe 11 up to 13 before you start feeling the same fatigue. So the hypertrophy factor here is that you're allowing yourself to get more reps per set. Over time, that's going to lead to volume, and this is where that creatine, even though subtle, it starts to pay dividends. If our goal is to get better in the gym and get better results faster and safely, creatine becomes an essential part of your diet now because of its benefit to side effect ratio.
And that's why whenever I have a new client, or returning clients, I always prescribe them 3 supplements, and that would be whey, creatine, a BCA. Oh, I do 4, a multivitamin. Because most clients, when they come in, have severe, deficiencies. Yeah, deficiencies in their diet. A lot of people, especially down here, don't eat the proper fruits and vegetables. They're getting a lot of more fats than they really need, and they're eating a lot more high processed carbs. So getting that multivitamin in, as well as a fish oil, because it's recommended that we eat at least 3 servings of fish a week. 90% of the valley's not doing that. Most of America's not.
And Long John Silver's doesn't count. I would like to add that. Sorry.
Building on the supplementation, and we've talked about diet, let's go into the nitty gritty. Let's ask Mr. Bodybuilder what goes into his prep.
Okay, so number 1 is you have to commit. The main thing here is understanding that this is not something that you can just pick up and put down whenever you feel like. Once you pick it up, you're gonna have to carry it, and you're gonna have to carry it all the way to the finish. So that means that you understand that there's sacrifices that need to be made. You don't get to go out and be with your friends on a Friday night. The lifestyle of a bodybuilder is actually very isolated. This is where being a loner or having a loner mindset or approach is actually productive, where in most cases it's somewhat counterproductive, especially when you're working with others. But the art of bodybuilding is isolated in its nature. Even though it gets showcased to the public, all the work really happens behind the scenes, behind the curtains, when no one's watching. And this goes as far as making sure that you're getting your cardio in every day, your steps, tracking your food so that you don't over or underdo that, planning your workout accordingly, and sticking to just that. The art of bodybuilding does not get limited to just a show or a performance, but this is really a lifestyle that you can adopt, that you can carry you with you going well into the next decades of your life, because the plan is to do this from a healthy standpoint for the next going into your 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s if your body allows. In order to give yourself the best potential and the best opportunity to lead a quality life is to start doing and taking action on things you got to do now. So that ties in directly into the life of a bodybuilder, because now you're going to learn what to eat, what to stay away from, how to work out properly, learning exercise techniques like maintaining proper form, rep speed and tempo, and avoiding injury, as well as learning what it's like to recover. I feel like one of the underestimated components of bodybuilding is that we don't mention recovery enough. And one thing that I know I procure a lot for myself and my clients is that recovery has to be just as or more prioritized than the actual work. Because if you're not recovering efficiently, that means your workouts are not going to suffer, and consequently your results.
And that is one of my pet peeves as a trainer, and it's something that I've realized the longer I'm in, the more it seems to irk me, is the people that don't want to put in the work and the people that don't know how to stop. Where you hear these people that are like, I'm in the gym 6 to 7 days a week, where they use it more like as a gloat, and to me it's just like, so you're stupid. Yeah. And I know that sounds cruel and that can be a little bit condescending, but that's coming from someone that knows you're not going to be able to do this. Give it 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Your body's going to break down on you. And I'm already hearing, well, my shoulder's this, my back is this, my knee's this. And they're in their 20s. And I'm like, it's because you're being dumb. Yeah. And that's mean to say, and I'm sorry to say it, but it's true. It's this constant, they don't know how to stop. And when you tell them this, it's, well, you don't have that grind mindset, or you don't have that grind, or you don't have that beast in you.
When you're thinking long term, for a quality life that'll allow you to do what you love, in this case working out for as long as you can, you have to have a balance. So listening to your mind and having willpower is great, especially when it comes to challenging yourself, but also understanding your body's limitations and capacity and staying within it, not trying to outdo them. I think earlier in our 20s, it's easier for us to push our bodies to the brink of breaking at every workout and still recover and be okay. But as we age, we've learned now that that's not going to allow us to do what we enjoy for that long.
And like how we say, those pains we feel today aren't something we did yesterday. It was the 2, 3, 4 years ago. We're not recovering from those workouts like we think we are. It's just we aren't feeling the effects quite yet. Those cells haven't come back quite the way they used to. Those bumps and bruises are now starting to come back to haunt us, and in the long run, it's going to affect you. It may not affect you today, it may not affect you tomorrow, but it's going to catch up with you. And when it does, is it going to be a freight train or is it going to be a toy train? That's the question. What is something that advice you give for clients when prepping that you didn't follow or you didn't have when you were coming up?
So the very first observation now that I make with my clients is that we're going to have to establish the big picture. See, because it's in the big picture that you do the visualizing part. So if you can see the big picture or the end outcome that you're aiming for, now you're going to be able to understand where you're at and what steps you physically, tangibly have to make moving forward, which would be the day-to-day stuff. You have to have a really clear vision of how you want to look and feel.
Bodybuilding is an art of discipline, so what you're planning today needs to be beneficial to what you want to end up at. So we can't let one day throw us off, and that goes both ways. A bad day can't throw us completely off, but we can't let those bad days build up, which will ultimately impact that end goal. So with that in mind, what is it that you give to clients as advice for when they have those off days, that they're just looking a little bloated that day, or their workout wasn't that great, or that they broke the diet? What is it that you tell your clients to help them keep them on track and to keep them toward that end goal?
So one understanding that I make with my clients is that one bad choice is not going to break the rest of the pyramid. Also, one good choice is not going to justify for 10 bad choices. So realizing that ultimately the choices that you're making today are going to lead to whether it's a better or worse tomorrow, depending on the choices that you're making. So thinking from a long-term and short-term perspective, if you can see yourself big picture and you want to see where you're going to end up at in terms of how you look and feel, you got to realize that you're going to have to do everyday things and stick to it. So consistency over time is going to be the goal here. Making sure that you have the plan. This is where the trainer comes in. They can help you plan accordingly and keep you accountable to make sure that you're carrying that plan out. Nutritionally, you're going to have to understand what are the foods that are for you and what are the foods that are not. And stick to this good side at least 90% of the time. If you can stay consistent long enough for at least 80 to 90% of the time, you will see a benefit, an outcome. And if you're working with me personally, I'm going to make sure I give you that extra 20 to 10% that you might be lacking.
And I know with clients, this may actually be a surprise, but sometimes cheat meals are beneficial when it comes to diet plus mental health. And I feel like a lot of people, they get in their own heads, and it's good for the trainers sometimes go, cut the crap, we're going to eat that burger tonight, we're going to start up tomorrow. Because sometimes this is a very mentally draining career, and sometimes you need that outlet, whether it's going out bowling, spending time with the family, or having a meal you normally are not allowed to have, just kind of as a reset to make you feel better, so that Sunday or Monday you can get right back to where you were. And we're not telling you to jump right back in and like eat all your bad habits again, but go to that barbecue, have fun, have one beer and have that burger, but tomorrow we're back in the gym and we're going to be hitting this hard because we've got to do an extra 10% to make up for yesterday. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make that big of a deal in the long run.
Exactly. So now one of the things that I tell my clients is, rather than call it a cheat meal, we're going to call it a refeed, or you said it best, a reset meal. Because the word cheat meal makes it feel dirty, makes you feel guilty, makes you feel almost ashamed to even consider it. If you're in the process of developing yourself from a bodybuilding standpoint, you've been staying disciplined and making the necessary sacrifices long enough to earn yourself a refeed meal. In this case, a refeed meal versus a cheat meal. In a cheat meal, you could have yourself a banana split, and technically you'd be all right because you fall under the guidelines of what a cheat meal is. However, you have to understand that there is very little to no value in a cheat meal versus a refeed meal is going to be more orchestrated so that you can still eat like a human and enjoy foods that you typically have been staying away from. In this case, it could look like something like a burger, where typically you would stay away from it, but because it still has the components of macro friendliness, in this case proteins, carbs, and fats, it has the ratio. It now becomes a refeed meal for the body, not so much a cheat meal. We can go as far as even a slice of pizza. Rather than going for a cheese or pepperoni slice, you can load it up with more veggies and more types of protein so that you can get more substance from it. So even though it's a meal that you typically would stay away from, as a refeed meal that you've earned, now you get to still extract some value from it and enjoy some of the simple pleasures of life, like living through your taste buds.
Looking at the world of strongman versus powerlifting versus bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is the idea of physique, making yourself look the ideal physical physique, while strongman is the idea of becoming the most absolute strongest you can possibly be. Their diets are going to be vastly different. Their caloric and their macro needs are going to be massively different. Different sports, different athletes, and different levels require different needs. And that's why I have a little bit of an issue when you see these people trying to follow celebrity workouts or pro athletes, because you're talking about years of preparation, years of knowing their body to create this that you don't have. And comparing ourselves to athletes, you're also not even comparing the genetic structures that exist, the experience, the wear and tear, and just what their sport they need. Give a pro basketball player, a football player's diet, they're not going to succeed. Same way, give a bodybuilder a football lineman's diet, and it's not going to work out either. If you want to bring up an athlete, Shaq, as he got older and he got a little pudgier, when you add in age as well as you add in wear and tear, he couldn't support that big frame and dealing with other people with that massive frame going right up against him. When 10 years ago, he was the most dominant athlete on the court. That just shows the wear and tear, and that shows the exact opposite. You can't give a point guard a center's diet, and you can't give the center's diet to a point guard. They're two different ideas. The same way you can't give the lineman the same diet that they give to the running back, and you can't give the quarterback's diet to the lineman. It's doing what you need to do, fueling for your job, and then going from there. With Rise Above about to celebrate its 10th birthday in about 4 months, what made you start the gym?
The goal when Rise Above first started was just to do something different. If I'm being honest, I did it selfishly because I didn't want to work for anybody else. I didn't want to work in a field where I wasn't passionate or enjoyed the process of it. And working out for me was a natural thing that I enjoyed doing every day, so much that I became good enough to help others with it. And I decided, why not find a way to take what you love and create a career out of it. So this is where Rise Above Wellness had its inception. And from there, the goal now became, how do I reach out to as many people in the community as possible and help them? And then after that, it was like, okay, well, I can't fit any more people into my schedule, so how can I keep expanding both the gym and the amount of help that we can give to people? So we started incorporating more trainers into our facility. Fast forward to 10 years now, we're in a place where it's a trainer's gym. Even though we do cater to our members, I can honestly say that our personal trainers get prioritized in the way that our decisions revolve around catering to them. This is why the equipment that we select, the space that we have, the way we organize our structure is catered so that, yes, there will be members working out, but it's also conducive for personal trainers to have a home base that I know it's something that I liked before I created this, for them to have and not have to worry about the corporate obligations and restrictions. So Rise Above Wellness is a trainer's gym in the way that it puts you in a position as a trainer to start your own business, to create your own identity, and to work with people that you enjoy working with in a place that's going to provide both safety and resource. Moving into the future, Rise Above Wellness wants to sustain that ability to have a place where people can come in, feel like they're part of the community. They're not just another small fish in a big lake, but they're actually a big fish in a smaller pond where they get that extra attention, they get that accountability. They get to know the owners, the trainers, and the people that are going to be in their circle supporting their overall fitness journey.
And that is also the point of why we started Elevated Wellness Network, is that we want to create said pond. We want to bring attention to these fish that are in the community that are doing incredible things and bring attention to them. Bring it spotlight to them rather than have people constantly be asking where you can find this, where we can go here, where we can do here. I want to talk to the local boxing gyms. I want to talk to the local yoga studios. I want to talk to the supplement companies and any local companies. If there's any local companies out here, and this is talking to anyone, if you're in the McAllen, Far, Edinburgh, Mission, any of those areas, even we're willing to travel. If you have a local company that would like to spotlight, we are happy to talk to you, give you that spotlight. That's why we called ourselves the Elevated Wellness Network, because we want to create a network amongst all of this community. There are so many things popping up that are trying to help this community that I feel like gets overlooked. And I think that's something that we're going to do great, is bring attention to that. We want to bring attention to a community that's rich in professional boxing. We have an MMA studio down here that recently fought in the UFC, had some fighters in the UFC. We've had Golden Gloves boxers come out of the valley. We have some top level bodybuilders that are coming up. We want to talk to them. We want to highlight all of these great people and everything they're doing for this community. If you own a local boxing gym, fitness gym, wellness center, yoga studio, Pilates, karate, MMA, anything under the sun, or have a food prep company that you would like spotlighted, please reach out to us on our social media. We're Elevated Wellness Network on Instagram as well as YouTube. We're happy to reach out. We're happy to talk to you, and we will make time for you, whether it's spotlighting you on our social media or coming and doing the podcast with you. Give us the opportunity to bring attention to a vibrant community that I am so proud to represent, and I know Eric is as well.
Yes, sir. We're ready to serve. We're here for the community, and we like where it's headed.
This is the Elevated Wellness Network. This is Patrick with Real Deal Fit RGV.
And Eric Marin with Rise Above Fit 956.
And this is Elevated Wellness Network signing out. Have a good day.
See you guys next time. Patrick, Bandit. Glad you could join us. Just haven't seen it. Nice to have his way. I was gonna say one more thing in terms of that. When it comes to pushing your body.
Estoy lindo.